Hi everybody, it's Steven here at Bland Designs, and today I'm going to show you how to make these types of albums. These albums are constructed from just simple, ordinary, everyday business envelopes, this kind of thing, and a whole bunch of little coin envelopes. So before we get started on this tutorial, I want to show you what they look like inside. So I'll start with this first one because it's blank. So basically what I've done is I've constructed it using these envelopes, and I'm going to show you how this is done in a few minutes. But first of all, I just want to talk a little bit about the paper. The paper I used just came from a paper pack. I can't remember the name of it. It was probably a Recollections one. And I just cut out certain areas of the paper that I thought were kind of interesting. And that's what I've created the whole album from. The beauty of creating an album from a paper pad is that all the papers coordinate. So you really can't go wrong with that. I added this little detail of a butterfly, which is actually three-dimensional, and that was using a Spellbinders die. And I added a little bling with some pearls here and there on this as well. Inside, you'll notice you have a big area for a picture, a little smaller area that could serve for a smaller picture or for journaling, and then we have 3 tags in individual pockets, and that's where these little coin envelopes come in, and I'll show you how to do that in a few minutes. Again, the tags were simply cut from the same paper in this pad, and each one slips into its own little individual envelope, as so, which holds them secure and holds them in place. And I just added some more detail on them by adding some coordinating bows as well. Again, these tags could serve for both photos or for journaling. And basically that's how the whole book goes together. As far as the, oh, and also I forgot to tell you that it also creates these little pockets, which when you pull them out can be made into bigger photo mats. So really, there's a lot of real estate in this album for adding a lot of pictures in a very compact size. Now, to put the binding together, I don't think you can see here on the edge, there are some little strips that go in here, and I'll show you how to make those as well. This is all done with paper, with good quality double-sided cardstock and plain cardstock, and it holds it all very well together. I do recommend, as you'll see in the video, that when you're sticking the envelopes together that you use really good quality score tape, because there's going to be a lot of wear and tear on your booklet. So this one is blank, and just to give you an idea of what one might look like when you put some pictures into it, I created the same album using different papers, and this one I call a heritage album, so I've added the butterfly details. And if you notice, or if you've watched some of my other videos, you know I got a thing for butterflies in paper. Inside, the same kind of setup, but in here you can see I've added some pictures and I've added some steampunk details as well. These I simply scanned from some punches and put them through my brother's scan and cut around them and created this little three-dimensional detail. They're raised up, hard to tell that probably on the video. By the way, the pictures come from my great-grandmother's 1896 photo album, and these are actually my great-grandparents, and that was their wedding day picture. Just a little aside. So throughout, I have pictures of various relatives. These are sisters and brother-in-laws and uncles and aunts to that generation. And it just goes through the whole thing. Now, I haven't quite finished this album yet because what I want to do is I want to identify the people and some vital statistics about them on the tags. But the same idea, the tags are cut from another set of pattern paper that I thought went with it. And what I'm going to do is I'll just put the actual information about individuals in the pictures onto these tags. So you can see this is a very versatile type of album. Make a great travel album, it make a great little grandma's brag book, a baby book, whatever. It'll work for everything. And once you get going with it, doesn't take that much to make. So we'll take a look at how to make what I call an envelope mini album. That's what I'm calling it, an envelope mini album. Okay, I'll be back with the instructions. Okay. So the first thing you're going to need are 4 envelopes. These envelopes measure 9.75 inches, no, sorry, 9.5 inches this way and 5.75 inches this way. And I just picked them up at my little local dollar store in a package of 10 for $1. So you'll need 4 of those. Now, what you're going to do with each one, and I've already done this for 3 out of the 4 envelopes, is you want to use your score tape or double-sided tape, and you want to glue down the flap. Now, there is glue on this flap already, which you could moisten and then fold over, but I find that that glue isn't really heavy enough to keep this sealed. So I put some score tape on right along where the sticky is on the envelope, and seal it down that way. Now, one of the tricks I use, because unlike possibly a lot of my lady friends out there, I do not have any fingernails. So, to get this double-sided stuff off, I find the easiest thing to do is just use my little paper piercer and pulls it right off. Just like that. Okay, then fold it over, give it a good rub to seal it. Now, you're going to take your paper cutter next. Let me grab mine right here. And you're going to cut off a 1/2 inch at either end. So you're going to open these up. This will be the pockets with the larger photo mats in them. So just cut off a 1/2 inch, and that's what I'm doing here. This is my 1/2 inch mark. Cut one, and just flip it around, and cut the other end off. Now you're going to notice there may be little pieces that come out from the inside. There's another one. Just grab those and throw them away. They're just the leftover on the cut. Alright, once you have a 1/2 inch cut from each side, you're going to get out your scoreboard, or a ruler, and a bone folder will work as well, or a stylus. And you're going to score at 2.75 inches. And I'll just move this into the shot. So at 2.75 inches, get it in the groove. Do it a couple of times. And then, let's move the scoreboard out of our way. And then you're going to fold it and crease it along that score line. Now, I use my bone folder for this to get a nice crisp fold. And because this is going to be attached to other pages, and you're going to be flexing it back and forth, I like to take it, flip it over, fold it again, give it a good rub with the bone folder, and one more time. This just works in the crease. Okay? So, that's what you're going to do with all 4 envelopes. And now we're going to talk about how you assemble it. For this next part, you want to take 3 coin envelopes, which you can buy at any standard office supply store, or you might even luck out and get them at your local dollar store. I didn't luck out. I had to buy a box of 250 of these for $17 at Staples. But anyways, now I have enough coin envelopes to last me a lifetime. So you need 3 of these for each page. You're going to need 12 of them in total. So what you want to do is take each coin envelope, and you want to open up the flap and cut it 4 inches long. So put the base at the 4-inch mark on your cutter and slice off the top. And you want to do that for each one of the coin envelopes. Then you want to put some score tape on this. I'm using 1/2 inch score tape. You can use whatever you want, but score tape works much better because there's going to be a lot of use on these with tags going in and out of them. So I recommend the score tape. But before you put the score tape on, you need to know how far along you need to put the score tape, because it's going to hang over the edge. So if you see here, this is my envelope, all right, and we have the shorter flap. What's going to happen is you're going to attach with the open side out one of these coin envelopes to the top, one to the bottom, fold this over, and one's going to go in the middle. So you see, you've got part of this is hanging over the edge. So you don't want score tape there, or it's going to adhere it down to the rest of your page, and that's not going to be good. So we get out our score tape, and get out a ruler first, and you can eyeball this, or you can mark it, whichever works best for you. But we're going to measure out approximately 2.5 inches. So I'm just going to draw a very light line. It doesn't really matter how light the line is, because this is going to get covered up anyways later, so no one's going to see it. It's just a guide. So draw your line, and then take your score tape, and be fairly generous with your score tape. I put about 3 pieces on, up to that line, doesn't have to go exactly to the line, but it's just a guide so it doesn't hang over the edge. Make sure you varnish it well with a bone folder, because this will keep your tape in place. And then take off the tape, and with your first envelope, line it up with the fold and with the top edge and adhere it down. Again, you can use your bone folder to give it a good varnish so it sticks there. They got a little piece of glue right there. We'll get rid of that. Okay. And that's what you're going to do. Now I've already got some of these pre-made to save some time. So I'm just going to take off my score tape using my handy dandy paper piercer. And this one you're going to attach at the fold and at the bottom edge. And get it the right way. That helps. Make sure your open end is out there. That's going to cause you some grief. Okay, so I've got those two, the top and the bottom. Just going to fold this over. I'm going to take my third coin envelope, the backing off the score tape. Make sure I've got the opening the right way, that way, yep. And I'm just going to eyeball it so it's sort of in the middle of those other two. Varnish it all down. And so there we go. There's the basic first page done. Now don't worry that these look like they're hanging out in space, because we are going to actually put a piece of decorative paper over top of this on both sides, and that's going to secure it even more so. Okay? So you want to put your coin envelopes on all 4 of these pages. Alright? So when we come back, I'm going to show you how to assemble the booklet. Okay, so now we want to assemble our booklet, and to do that we need 3 hinges. And we're going to make our hinges out of good quality cardstock, and I'm just using black. You could use any color you wish, but nobody really sees the hinges, and so I just went with black. And what you want to do is take a piece of black cardstock and cut it into a square 4 inches by 4 inches. And then to get this V, just simply mark the halfway mark at 2 inches and down from the top at 3/4 of an inch, and just cut from corner to midpoint, from corner to midpoint on both edges. So you have this hinge looking like this. Now the reason I did that is because it makes it a little easier for folding. You could do it as a solid piece, but I think this makes it a little nicer and it folds and unfolds a little bit easier. So once you've got your 3 pieces cut out, you want to score it at the 2-inch mark and fold it in half and give it a really good crease with your bone folder. And then you want to put your score tape on it. Now I've already done this one side here, and I'm using 3 pieces of 1/2 inch score tape. You want this to be very, very secure. That's why the score tape is better than using, say, a tape runner. You could use wet glue, it just means that the drying time is longer, but this is going to be open and closed a lot, so you want your hinge to hold. So we put the 3 strips on both sides. I've done one side, I'm going to do the second side. This is really sticky score tape because it's sticking to my fingers really well, as you can tell. Okay, once you've got your score tape on the hinge, use your bone folder to varnish it really well. And then grab 2 of your envelopes and put them on your table in front of you so that the short flaps are across from each other. And so when you lift it up, you have this kind of configuration. You see, you can see the single coin envelope, the one I put on the opposite side from the other 2, are both on the top. Okay, so basically what's going to happen is we're going to attach one side of the hinge here and then attach the other side of the hinge here. Okay, so watch what I do. So you take your hinge that you've already put the score tape on. I'm going to get that score tape off using my handy dandy little paper piercer. And then grab your envelope, get this out of my way, and you can kind of use this center coin envelope as your guide. Right at the bottom, just line up the edge so that the wide part is facing up. Line it up, get it approximately. You can try to make it as even as you can on either side of that coin envelope, but it doesn't really matter, just so it's in the pretty much in the center. Press that down, varnish it well, and then take the score tape off the other side of the hinge. And this time, take your other page. Again, you've got the single coin envelope here on top. Just turn this over, and now you can just line it up from edge to edge along the spine. Press it down, open it up, varnish it. And this is what you have. Now, of course, this is pretty ugly looking right now, but this is not going to be seen because we're going to be covering all of this with paper later. So now we have one section, or half the section of our booklet. That's assuming that you're making an 8-page booklet, which is what this does. You can add as many envelopes as you want and just create more hinges, and it can be as stackable as you would like. So I've already created the other two. So now we need to take these two pieces, make some room here, and join them together. So easy enough. You're going to take another hinge, do the same thing, score it, fold it, put your scoring tape on both sides, varnish them well, and then take this one section, oops, got it all straight up here. Okay, you're going to fold it over, and I've cheated because I've already added my hinge to this part. But you see now, I don't have a coin envelope to use like we used in the last one to line it up. But it's easy enough to see. If you turn it up this way, you can see the other hinge. So you can just eyeball getting this hinge in so it's centered to that one. I'll just hold it up here a little closer for you. So you see what I mean? You can see the one, and then you just line up the other one. Stick it down, varnish it well, and then take off your score tape on the other side. And the same thing, take the other one, close it up, put it down, and then just take this, turn it upside down, and line up along the edges and the corners. Give it a squish, open it up, varnish it. Okay, so now you've got the basic. And you might want to just do a little bit of realigning. Some things may be a little crooked. It'll look okay. You don't have to worry about that, but you know, giving around the edges a good crease with your bone folder. So let's take a look at what this looks like. So here we go. There is our basic mini album. All right, the basic foundation. So when you open it, you're going to have tags here. These will be covered pages, tags here, more covered pages, double spread, page for pictures, journaling, more tags, pages, tags, etc. right to the back. If you look at your spine, it looks just like that. Okay? Not ugly. We're going to do something with this in a moment, but you do have the option. I don't do it, but you could take a piece of paper and cover this spine. The only problem is that you want to make your paper a little bit bigger and expandable, because as you put things in here, we still have tags to go in here and photo plates to go in here and the photos and the journaling. That's going to put, it's going to expand your spine a little bit. And if you notice here, there's a little bit of give to this spine. So it will accommodate some thicker embellishments. Okay, so that's that stage. So we've got the basic foundation. Now we're going to cover the pages. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut black cardstock. Well, actually, before we cut the black cardstock, we're going to do a little bit of enhancement to the edges of all of this. So after you have the whole book together, you're going to want to go around all the edges with some form of medium, like distress ink or regular ink, or what I used on this particular one for the first time, and this is why I did it off camera to see if it would work. I used the paint dabbers, and I used a gold paint dabber. And all I did was I went all the way around the edges on all the pages, because, and it's messy. This is a mess right now. It's a mess for a couple of reasons. One, because the medium I'm using is pretty much messy, but it doesn't matter because most of this is going to get covered up. The only thing that I'm interested in seeing is about 1/8 of an inch all the way around when I put my next series of papers on this, which I'll show you in a minute. Also, it's a mess because my paint took a little longer to dry than I expected, and I didn't think about that. So as I'm going around all the edges of these pages, I'm closing the pages up, and they stuck. So they tore a little bit. But I'm not worried about that because, as you'll see, this is going to be covered up. So if we go to this side, because I've already started doing it, I've put a basic black page background on each of these. So now what I have is a gold trim on all the pages, and the black hides it. Now in a second I'm going to talk about the dimensions for the black sheets and how to put them on, but I just want you to see now what the book's starting to look like. And on the spine I added some of that gold just to soften the color, this orangey, pukey orange color that these envelopes are originally. And it could almost, this paint that I used has a bit of glitter to it as well. So I just rubbed it along the edges and along these edges as well. So how do you put these sheets in here? Well, first of all, what you need to do is you need to cut, we'll go here, the big squares. You need to cut those 5 5/8 by 5 5/8, and you need 8 of those. And then you need 8 of the smaller flaps, and they're cut at 3 7/8 by 5 5/8. So you need 8 large, 8 small. Now, here's a little bit of a trick. When you first cut these out and you go to apply them to the page, you want basically 1/8 of an inch border all the way around. You might want more. You might want 1/4 inch. If that's the case, then adjust the size of the black sheets accordingly. I just only want just a hint of that orangey border with the gold on it around the black. But envelopes, although you would expect them all to be exactly the same size and square, they're not, especially when you're dealing with 1/8 of an inch. So you want to keep your paper trimmer handy, and after you get your score tape on the back of them, and I'll show you this in a minute, you might want to do a slight trim on each one of these cards before you stick it down, just so you get the border that you want. Okay, so here we go. Here's my last 2 pages. What a mess. So I've cut my 2 black sheets that I need for this, one for this side and one for this side. And what I've done is I've done what I did before. I put score tape all the way around both of these pieces. Now, I've already checked out the sizing to get them the way I want them. So I did have to do a little bit of trimming, and I found, okay, this is stupid, but when I discovered I needed to do a little bit of trimming, I'd already taken the tape off the piece I was about to put down. So when I stuck it in my trimmer, you know what happened. It stuck to the trimmer. I had to redo that piece. But live and learn. So you can put your score tape on first, but just leave the backing on, or don't put it on at all, trim them all first, and then put it on, which is probably the better route to go. So I'm going to put these last 2 pieces down. So I'm taking off my score tape. Oops. And we're going to center it, and you'll notice this is where our envelopes, our coin envelopes are, and I said, you know, this is going to help reinforce it a little bit, and it does. It strengthens the envelopes. It also helps to secure the hinges just a little bit more. So rub that down good on that side, and then our last piece, all the score tape backing is off, and then line this up, and I'm just eyeballing it, and on she goes. And there we have the album. So this is our basic album. Now what we need to do is concentrate on cutting the actual double-sided cardstock or very thick cardstock, pattern cardstock that you're going to use on each of the pages. Now just before I leave that and go to the more decorative papers, just a word about how I cut these. I have a Brothers Scan and Cut, and so I'd already programmed into the Brothers Scan and Cut the sizes that I needed, laid them out and put the paper through, and it cut it for me. Does a great job, it's a lot faster. But if you don't have one of those, a paper trimmer will work just as well. Okay, so next we're going to work with the decorative papers. Okay, now we're ready to put the background papers on all of the pages. So what I've done is I have cut 8 of these large ones, and they measure 5 1/4 by 5 1/4, and then 8 of the small ones, and these are covering up the part where the envelopes are for the tags, and they measure 3 1/2 by 5 1/4. And what I did was the same process as before. I put score tape on the back and just centered them on the black piece that's already there. So what we have is sort of a triple matting. We have the envelopes in behind, which we've already used paint on to distress a little bit. Then we have the black, and then we have the colored. Now my colors are pretty wild on this one. This is actually from a set of papers called Tie-Dyed, I think by Recollections. And the reason I'm using these wild, bold colors is because this album I'm making for a friend, and she's going to Disney in March with her daughter and her husband. And so I thought it might be nice if I made them a little album that they can put their pictures into that they take at Disneyland. I am going to enhance this album a little bit more with some Disney characters, and I'll come back and show you the finished product when I get to that. Now, I'm just going to show you that I didn't do the last 2 pages, so I'm going to do those now. So again, I've got my double-sided tape. I call it score tape. It's got other names for it. It doesn't really matter what brand you use. Again, I'm using the score tape as opposed to the tape runner because this is going to be handled quite a bit, and I want everything to stay in place. So I just center it. I'm just eyeballing it and glue it down. And I'm going to do the same thing with the larger piece. Again, the measurements for this, the larger piece are 5 1/4 by 5 1/4, and the smaller pieces are 3 1/2 by 5 1/4. And again, just eyeballing it and dropping it in. And there we have the entire basic element. Now, the only thing that I haven't shown you are the tags, the large ones and the small ones. You will need, for the large mats, I call them tags, you could call them photo mats, whatever you want to call them. For those, you're going to need paper. Now, I didn't use double-sided, but double-sided will work very, very well. The reason I didn't use double-sided was because this particular paper brand had a white side to it, but I wanted both sides to have some color. So I did something I call laminating. I cut all of these out with my Brothers Scan and Cut, but you can cut them out by hand, and I'll give you the measurements in a second. And before I cut them out, I put the strips of paper that I was going to use through my Xyron. I have a large Xyron, and that's 2-sided tape, and just put one piece on top of the other piece, then fed it through the Brothers Scan and Cut and got my cut. Makes a little thicker card as well, which I kind of like, but it also allows me to have 2 sides of printed paper. But again, if you use double-sided paper, it would work just as well. The measurements for the large mats are 5 1/2 by 6 inches. And you'll notice I have a decorative edge to it. Again, I use my Brothers Scan and Cut to cut that. You could use your Cricut, or you can just use a pair of deco scissors to do that kind of thing, or even a pair of pinking shears. Or you could even try freehanding it if you want. Or you can leave it straight. Up to you. Whatever method you want. So I needed to make 4 of these, and they go into the large pockets that were created when we first put the mini album together. So they just slip in there, and you notice they're a little longer than the pocket, and that's on purpose because I want the decorative edge to show. And they slide right in there quite nicely. And one more. So when you have them all in, you close up your album, you've got kind of a little decorative edge here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some embellishments to those cards inside and make them so that they can hold some pictures as well. And I might put some little things right here on each one of these little bumps. And then we have the tags. And you're going to need 12 tags. And the tag measurements are 2 1/4 by 5 3/4. So 2 1/4 across, 5 3/4 down. Now again, I used my brother's scan and cut to cut these out, and I used the same process. I put 2 pieces of paper together using my Xyron, and they make a fairly substantial tag, as you can see. Again, you can probably get tags right from Staples, just plain ordinary ones, and you can embellish them with your own paper, or you could do it with distress ink or paints, whatever you like. And I think the standard shipping tags work pretty well with these dimensions going into the coin envelope holders. You might have to slightly trim them. But look for tags that are pre-made as well with those dimensions, or ones that you can cut down easily. And it's going to add a lot of interest to your album. So they go into the individual pockets. And I have to find the pocket. There it is. Okay. So goes in there. Next one in here. And again, these are a little longer than the pockets themselves, so they'll stick out. And you just put those all the way through the whole album. And when you close it up, it looks like that. Now again, I'm going to do some embellishment on here, and I'm going to do some embellishment on the inside pages as well. So when I come back, I'll show you the completed album. Okay, so here's the finished product. And as I mentioned before, I was making this album for a friend, and she's going on a Disney cruise in March. So I thought it might be nice to have something that she could put all her pictures and memories into when she comes home. So this is the basic album all done, and now you can see why I use that wild colored tie-dyed type of paper, because I want it to be very vibrant, very cartoon-like, since that's what Disney's all about. And on the cover and the other graphics that I got as well, I just picked them up from Google Images, and I ran them through my brother's scan and cut, and they cut them out very nicely, including this title. And the title I have raised up on pop dots, and I also used glossy accents to give it a bit of a shine. I don't know if you can see the shine. There it is. So let's open it up. Well, first of all, you'll notice that here on the inside is one of those photo map pockets, and what I did was I had from some of my Disney trips some Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse punches, and I just cut out silhouettes of Mickey and Minnie and put them along here as a border treatment on the edge of these. And when you pull it open, inside I also had a package of things I'd bought at the Disney store that were old movie posters for some of their old movies. And so what I've done is I've only glued them down on the edge, and the idea here is that they can slip photos in underneath those, and that'll hold them steady. I didn't create mats for the photos. I thought maybe they'd like to do that for themselves, or even if they don't want to make mats, they'll be able to slip some of the pictures underneath this little flap. And there's one on the other side as well, Mickey Mouse Club. Now I didn't put the silhouettes down along this side of it because basically that's the back. No one's going to see it. I could have, I suppose, but I didn't do it that way. So that goes right back in there, and you can see them peeking out. And then when we open it up further, on each one of the large pages, I also included a Disney character, which is glued at one point, just at one side, so they can slip pictures underneath that, or journaling text. And on the smaller flaps, on some of them, I included a little journaling block. Here I have Minnie Mouse, same idea, just tacked at the edges. And this is a journaling block, which on the other side is blank, and they can write whatever they want to. And there's room here for them to entitle it or put a date on it or whatever. Now the tags, where normally we might put a piece of ribbon or something like that, piece of string or a bow, I simply use Disney characters. And I put these through, these again came off of Google Images. I put them through Photoshop first, and I made a flipped duplicate of each one. And then when the brothers Scan and cut them out, I simply glued them on either side, and they'd line right up. And they act as a pole for the tags. and I put a different character on each tag. And they're just sort of peeking out here, which I think kind of makes this look kind of neat. As you go through, you'll see different ones. So basically, this is how I went through the whole book. I didn't put a little thing here. I left one in blank just in case they want to just mount a picture without any embellishment. And of course the tags here, all the characters the same way. And it carries on throughout the book. Another one of those pullouts with another movie poster, one for Dumbo and an old Mickey Mouse, the original Steamboat Willie. Again, they can put pictures or journaling or memorabilia under those little flaps if they so desire. So this was really kind of a quick album to make. This did not take long at all. Once you've got the basic down, the basic booklet down, the rest of it's easy. You can embellish it any way you wish. And you saw my other two at the beginning of this video showing you how I did those. And this is something a little bit more fun. And at the back, I couldn't resist putting this graphic on the back of the page. I thought that was kind of cute. So that's all there is to it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to write any comments to me about it, please feel free to do so. Stay tuned for more videos in the future. Bye-bye.